Hi everyone, so welcome back to Aisha's Academy, and today we're going to learn about standard form, so writing numbers in standard form, multiplying and dividing. So when it comes to standard form, basically what it means is that we use powers of 10, so 10 to the power of a number, and the reason why we use this is to help us write very big numbers and very small numbers. So for instance, if we have 5 and about 7 zeros, in standard form we write that as 5 times 10 to the power of 7. And so this is your normal format. So in standard form, your first number must always range between 1 and 9.99, can't be bigger or smaller. And the power of the 10 is basically the total number of numbers between the new and the old decimal place. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So in this big number, your decimal place would be at the end, right? So we call that the old decimal place. But the reason why we have a new decimal place is because we've written the number 5 in standard form, the new decimal place would technically go after the 5. And so to work out the power, we would count the total number of numbers between this new and decimal place, which is totaling up to 7. So another question, if we add 0.00234, in standard form, the first number would be 2.34 times 10 to the power of, well, we would put our new decimal place, which would be where the 2.34 is. And then we've got our old decimal place already. And then that new decimal place would be our new decimal place. And then if we count in between those two decimal places, you've got 3 numbers. But before we write that, with small numbers, you should note that your power would always be a negative number. So it wouldn't be 10 to the 3, it would be 10 to the minus 3. Okay, and I have a special rule of thumb. I know I don't usually do this, but it's good to note these things down. If you have 10 to the power of 0, note that your answer will always be 1. Anything to the power of 0 is 1 actually. So just remember that as a rule of thumb. Right, so going into a question, example 1. So if the question says write the number 0.00037 in standard form, what we would do is, looking at that, I can see that the first number can be 3.7 because that is between our range. So we've got our times 10, then our power, if I put our new decimal place down, so we've got our old one, because in small numbers you already have a decimal place there, whereas big numbers you usually don't. So you've got our old decimal place, new decimal place, then I count in between. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers. And remember, because it's a really small number, we're going to have 10 to the negative 4. Just note that. Okay, so looking at another example, example 2. So if a question says write 4 and all those zeros in standard form, so I've written it out again. The first number can be 4 because it fits within that range, and then times 10 to the power of, put our old decimal place there. So with big numbers, just always put the old decimal place after the last number written. And then write your new decimal place after the 4. And then we're going to count in between. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And because it's a big number, we don't need a negative power, so it'll just be 10 to the 7. Okay, now, sometimes you may be asked to convert from standard form into an original number, so the other way around. So for instance, if it says 6.4 times 10 to the 5, write that as an ordinary number. Well, because it's to the 5, we're going to count 5 spaces forward, so then, add zeros if necessary, so that's what you would get. And then you need to now actually move your decimal place after the last number. So that would be your final answer. And example 1. If it says write 5.7 times 10 to the 3 as an ordinary number, because it's to the 3, we're going to count 3 spaces forward and add zeros if necessary. Move the decimal place after the last number. So your final answer would be 5,700. Yeah? Okay. So, example 2. if it says write 1.6 times 10 to the minus 5 as an ordinary number, because you've got a negative 5, you're going to count 5 spaces backwards. So basically, if it's positive number forward, negative number backwards, so you'd end up with this. And then, again, you need to move your decimal place after the last number you counted. So then your final answer would be 0.0000016. All right. And example 3. So again, if we had write 0.35 times 10 to the 7 in standard form, a lot of people would think this is already in standard form, but it's not, because the 0.35 is not between 1 and 9.99. So it needs to be changed to 3.5 because that number fits within the range. And so because you've moved forward one decimal place, you're going to also have to change the power, and you're going to have to remove 1 from the power. So anytime you move forward one decimal place, you remove 1 from the power. And that would be your final answer. Okay, so multiplying standard form. Right, let's get into this. So if I have an example of a question, if it said work out the value of 8 times 10 to the 4 multiplied by 3 times 10 to the 5. Okay, what you would do is the two numbers in front of the standard forms, multiply them together because it's a multiply question. So 8 times 3 is 24, and then you always write your times 10. Then with the powers, whenever you're multiplying standard form, you add the powers together. So 4 plus 5 would be 9. But then because 24 is not within the range, it needs to be changed to 2.4. And so because it's moved back a decimal place, you add 1 to the power. So that would be your final answer. Example 2. So if it says work out the value of 2.3 times 10 to the 7 multiplied by 5.4 times 10 to the 4, again, because you're dealing with decimals, you'd probably use your calculator. So if we multiplied those two numbers together, you'd end up with 12.42, and then you've got your times 10. And again, multiplying, you add the powers together. So that would give you to a power of 11. But because 12.42 is not within that range, it would change to 1.242 and times 10 to the 12. Now, when it comes to dividing standard form, okay, so example 1. If a question says work out the value of 4.8 times 10 to the 12 divided by 2.4 times 10 to the 3. So because you're dividing now, the two numbers in front of the standard form, we're going to divide them. And that would give you an answer of 0.5 times 10. And then whenever you're dividing, you take away your powers. So that would leave you to the power of 9. But again, 0.5 is not within that range. So it's going to be changed to 5. It's going to move forward a decimal place. And because it's moving forward a decimal place, you have to remove 1 from the power. Okay, example 2. So if you had to work out the value of 1.2 times 10 to the 8, and you divide that by 6 times 10 to the 4, again, the two numbers in front, you divide them. And because we're dividing in terms of the powers, we're going to take them away. So that would leave you with the answer of 0.2 times 10. And because we're taking away 8 minus 4, you'd be left with to the 4. But again, 0.2 is not within that range, so you're going to move forward a decimal place. So it's going to change that number to 2 and remove 1 from the power. So you're left with times 10 to the 3. Okay, I hope that made sense in terms of standard form. If I went too quickly, sorry about that, and please just go through it again. But if you did enjoy this video, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe, guys, and grow the Aisha Academy's family. Thanks for watching.